Imagine a simple computer chip, no bigger than your thumbnail. Now imagine that chip holding the fate of millions in its circuits. On a quiet, ordinary day, that chip made a mistake. It saw shadows where there was light. It saw a missile strike where there was a peaceful sky. This isn't a scene from a movie. It's the terrifying, untold story of a near-miss nuclear incident that brought the world to the brink of a doomsday war. This is a story of a system designed for a perfect response, and how a human flaw, a single moment of doubt, was the only thing that saved us all on the Cold War's tense balance. Tense. The year was 1983. The world was a chessboard of political tension, divided between two superpowers, the United States and the Soviet Union. Both nations held thousands of nuclear warheads, each one capable of wiping out a city. The core of their strategy was mutually assured destruction, a grim and logical doctrine. The idea was simple. If one side launched a nuclear attack, the other would launch an immediate and overwhelming retaliation, ensuring the total annihilation of both. The system was designed to be fast, precise, and automated. There was no room for error. At the heart of the Soviet defense was the OCO system, a network of early warning satellites designed to detect American missile launches. These satellites were their first line of defense, their eyes in the sky. Their job was to immediately report any signs of an incoming nuclear strike, giving Soviet leaders a few precious minutes to decide whether to launch a retaliatory strike. The system was considered flawless, but on one fateful night that flawless system presented a horrifying reality. An American nuclear attack was already underway. The moment of truth, a ghost in the machine. It was September 26, 1983, a day that should have been forgotten in history. Lieutenant Colonel Stanislav Petrov was on duty at the Soviet Early Warning Command Center. His job was to monitor the OCO system and report any signs of a nuclear attack to his superiors. His training was absolute. In the event of a confirmed launch, he was to immediately alert the Soviet High Command, and a retaliatory strike would be launched. The fate of the world rested on his shoulders. Suddenly, the alarms blared. A single red light flashed on the large display map, indicating a single missile launch from the United States. Petrov's heart must have skipped a beat. A single missile was a major threat, but it wasn't a full-scale attack. He was trained to consider this a possible malfunction. But a few minutes later, the alarms blared again. This time, it wasn't one missile. The system showed 4 more missiles had been launched. The lights on the map were flashing red, and the system's message was chillingly clear. Missile attack confirmed. Launching now. Petrov was faced with an impossible choice. The protocol was unambiguous. A confirmed attack required an immediate response. His superiors were waiting. The world was about to end. But something was wrong. His training and his instincts were screaming a different message. A full-scale nuclear attack wouldn't begin with just 5 missiles. The US would launch hundreds of them, all at once from dozens of different locations. The logic of mutually assured destruction dictated a massive, coordinated first strike, not a piecemeal one. The near miss, the flaw that saved millions. Petrov decided to trust his instincts. He declared the alarm a false one, a system malfunction, and reported his findings to his superiors. He had a few agonizing minutes to wait. The fate of the world hung in the balance. If he was wrong, if he had just ignored the first wave of an American nuclear attack, he would be a pariah, a traitor who had doomed his country. But if he was right, if the system was indeed flawed, he would have single-handedly saved millions. His bet paid off. The missiles never arrived. The system, it turned out, had indeed malfunctioned. The cause of the error was a single, almost laughable flaw. The satellite's sensors had mistaken the sun's reflection on high-altitude clouds for the bright flares of a missile launch. It was an unforeseen consequence of the system's design, a blind spot that almost triggered the end of the world. Petrov, by going against his training and trusting his human intuition, had saved the world from an accidental nuclear holocaust. His actions were a testament to a human flaw, the ability to doubt, to question, to go against the rigid logic of a machine. The unspoken lessons of a flawed system. The world was saved, but the incident was far from over for Lieutenant Colonel Stanislav Petrov. While he had single-handedly averted a nuclear war, his actions were not met with a hero's welcome. He was initially praised by his superiors, but he was also reprimanded for failing to properly fill out his logbook. His superiors, faced with the embarrassing reality of a flawed multi-billion-dollar early warning system, chose to bury the incident. Petrov's act of heroism was deemed a professional lapse, a moment of improper behavior that had exposed the system's flaws. He was reassigned to a less sensitive post and eventually left the military, his story fading into obscurity for years. The system's fatal flaw, a failure of imagination. The Soviet ecosystem was built on a foundation of absolute logic and a simple but dangerous assumption that a nuclear attack would be a massive all-out launch. The designers, in their pursuit of an infallible system, had failed to account for a simple, mundane variable: the sun. They had built a perfect machine for a scenario that was a product of their own Cold War logic, but they had not accounted for the simple, unpredictable reality of the natural world. The system saw 5 missile launches and, based on its programming, confirmed a full-scale attack. It was too rigid, too logical, and it lacked the one thing that Petrov had in abundance: doubt. This was a chilling lesson for the world. We had built a system designed to prevent war, but it was so fragile that a single, unforeseen variable could have triggered the end of the world. The incident was a powerful reminder that in our pursuit of technological perfection, we often create a system that is more brittle and more dangerous than we realize. The story of Stanislav Petrov is not just about a close call. It's a profound and humbling lesson for all of us. It's a reminder that no system, no matter how technologically advanced, can ever be completely flawless. In the end, it was a human flaw, the ability to question, to doubt, to go against the logic of a machine that saved us all. Petrov's act of defiance was an act of faith in his own humanity. He chose to believe in his gut, in his intuition, and in a logic that was more profound than a computer's programming. The world is a different place now, but the lessons of that day are more relevant than ever. We are building a world of AI, of automation, and of interconnected systems. We are building a world that is more reliant on the flawless logic of machines and less reliant on the messy, imperfect logic of human beings. So the question remains, are we building systems that are so perfect that they have no room for a human moment of doubt? Are we building systems that are so logical that they have no room for a human gut feeling? And are we building a world that will ever have a place for a hero like Stanislav Petrov? The day a computer almost started a nuclear war is a reminder that the answer to those questions will determine our future. The flaw that saved the world. The alarms had fallen silent, but the chilling lessons of that night were just beginning to be understood. Lieutenant Colonel Stanislav Petrov, his decision to trust his intuition over the rigid logic of a machine, had single-handedly averted a nuclear war. The world was saved not by the perfection of a system, but by a human flaw, the capacity for doubt. Petrov's story, buried for years, is a powerful reminder that our over-reliance on technology can create new, unimaginable vulnerabilities. The Soviet ecosystem was designed to be fast and flawless, but its flawless logic had a fatal blind spot. It couldn't account for the unexpected, the unpredictable, or the simple reality of a sun reflecting off clouds. Petrov, however, could. His refusal to blindly follow protocol was an act of profound human courage. He understood that a real nuclear attack would be massive and coordinated, not a mere handful of missiles. This critical piece of human reasoning was absent from the machine's programming. The incident was a brutal lesson for both superpowers. It forced them to confront the terrifying reality that their doomsday machines were not as infallible as they believed. The system that was designed to prevent war was, in fact, capable of starting one by mistake. It was a humbling moment, a quiet acknowledgement that the messy, illogical human element was, in the end, our best defense. The story of Stanislav Petrov is a challenge for the future. In our pursuit of automation and AI, are we building systems that are too perfect? Are we creating a world where a human moment of doubt, the very thing that saved us, is considered a weakness? This event teaches us that technology is a tool, not a replacement for human judgment. We must build systems that have a place for human oversight, a backstop of common sense and critical thinking. The story of our world is filled with moments when everything almost changed. I've told you the story of a flawed system that almost ended the world, and a human flaw that saved it. But this is just one piece of the puzzle. I've put together a video that goes into another one of these events, a nuclear crisis that was far closer to disaster than we ever imagined. And if you want to see more of these stories that tell the days when everything almost changed, please hit the subscribe button. I'll see you in the next one.